My name is Gary Castor. I'm the managing editor of the Jefferson City News Tribune. And the News Tribune is sponsoring this forum for the Western District Cole County Commissioner race. I thank both candidates for coming, Janet Owsley and Chris Shepperly. Here at the table with me is Rebecca Martin, my features editor at the News Tribune, who will serve as the timekeeper for the candidates' responses. The candidates will be asked to give an opening statement of 1 minute each, and then they will be asked a variety of questions of which they don't know yet what those questions are. They'll have 2 minutes to answer that question, and then they will have a closing statement of 1 minute. At that time, we'll have a brief intermission, and then we'll begin with the second portion of the program, which will be for the county assessor. But I will tell you, I forgot something already. So I would ask you to bear with me and pardon my forgetting this, but let's start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I joke with my staff. They help prepare the questions and the format and everything, and they really have to lead me, and I just need to follow the directions. So let's get started. Let me introduce the candidates. To my left is Janet Owsley, who is a sales representative in the advertising department at the Jefferson City News Tribune. To my right is Chris Shepperly, who is the incumbent Western District Commissioner. At this time, we had a flip of the coin before the forum, and Chris will be giving the first opening statement.
Thank you, Gary. I'm Chris Shepperly, the current Western District Commissioner of Cole County. I've been married to my wife Jennifer for 14 years. I have 4 children, all of whom attend Trinity Lutheran School, where my wife teaches. I'm the current chairman of our congregation, as well as volunteer for a number of youth sports as a coach. I also own and operate All Seasons Landscaping and Construction, and I've done that for the past 18 years. I'm currently running on a platform that I ran on 4 years ago. Basically, open government, no new taxes, and better cooperation through better government through better cooperation of Cole County communities. I've achieved lots of these things in the past 4 years, and I'll go into more detail, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Chris. Janet.
With that 37 years, it has afforded me the ability to belong to a lot of associations, serve on a lot of boards, be very active in the community, which I have enjoyed very much. I've been married to my husband for 35 years. We have 1 daughter and 4 grandchildren, and I just want to serve, so I would appreciate your vote. I think that the county needs more accessibility, and we need more openness in our government.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll begin our questioning. So in this format, we're going to alternate as to who gets the question first. So we're going to begin with Janet for this question. How would you assess the current operations of the department?
Not being in the position, I'm still in the research mode. From what I can see, I think our county is running pretty smoothly. I do see some hiccups here and there. I see some things we're missing, some things we could do better. I'm very concerned about some budget issues. I've spent many evenings here of late going through the budget, and I see some things that are disconcerting to me. I see things that we need to do better. One of the things, I don't think that we really bring our outlying municipalities into the fold as often as we should. Maybe we should work with them a little closer, have bi-monthly meetings with our mayors of our 7 municipalities that sit outside the city of Jefferson. Perhaps set them down and maybe ask them if they'd like to have a 5-year plan as where they want their little municipals to be in 5 years, and help them achieve that goal.
Okay. Chris?
So I would assess the current operation of the county as very good. We've spent a lot of time with our capital improvement sales tax trying to improve our facilities, improve public safety, taking care of our county employees by giving them raises over the last 4 years, and being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. I think the biggest asset that we have is our employees. And so, over the last 4 years, we have given them raises. We've fully covered their health insurance. And so, along with all of our assets, our 7 buildings, our Public Works Department, our Sheriff's Department, we have a lot of moving parts, but at the same time, we're taking care of those employees, we're taking care of our buildings, we're taking care of our roads, and we're doing a great job of that. And that's why our sales tax continues to pass. We have the confidence of the Cole County residents. They believe in what we're doing. They believe in how we're spending our money. And so I think our operations are very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So for the second question, Chris, what do you think people don't understand about the office but should?
So the Office of Commissioner is a very complex office. You oversee many departments as well as many other elected officials' budgets. It takes a long time to determine where all the money goes, and I for one have watched every expense that has been made over the past 4 years. When you watch where those dollars go, you really understand where that money's being spent. So it's a very complex budget process. It's just very diverse. From EMS to juvenile to health to public works to all the elected officials. So there is a lot of moving parts, and it takes a long time to understand where all that money goes and where it's coming from.
Okay, thank you. Janet, what do you think people don't understand about the office but should?
During my campaign, going door to door and visiting with business owners, one of the questions I get most often is, where is the money for this coming from? Where is the money for that coming from? Who pays for that? What does charities fall under? Why can't they take some of the money out of there and put it over in Road and Bridge? Why do we have to have another half-cent sales tax? We have 19 funds. The budget has like 19 funds. Some of them are like property tax, sales tax, license fees and permits. There's a general fund, there's Road and Bridge, there's sales tax, there's a user's tax, there's law enforcement, there's emergency management services. We have 14 elected officials, 4 of which are judges. It is a huge undertaking. I will concur to Chris. It is a huge undertaking, and probably the biggest question and the biggest that I get asked is, what do you do with all that money? How do you, where's it coming from? What can it be used on? So I'd say money is where people are most concerned.
Okay. Janet, how do you see the position of Western District Commissioner? Is it a full-time job, a part-time job? How many hours do you think you'd put in per week?
That's a good question, Mr. Castor. When I decided to run for this office, my employer graciously allowed me to run for the office, but in turn told me they had no part-time positions available. So if elected to Western District Commissioner, I will give 100% time to the job of Western District Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Chris, how do you see the position? Is it a full-time job, part-time job? How many hours do you think you, or do you put in per week?
So, when I ran for this position in 2012, it was a part-time job and it was part-time pay. Going forward and with recent events, you know, it looks like it's more of a full-time paying position. Given that, you know, how many hours do I put in a given week? Well, weeks vary. We serve on many committees. We have meetings that are outside of the commission. We have commission meetings, but we also are available by email and phone calls, and so it's hard to say how many hours we spend answering emails, answering phone calls, and doing things that we may not be in the office for. So, you know, probably 30 hours a week is probably a minimal amount, but I think that the position could be either a part-time or a full-time job, depending on what someone's flexibility would be.
Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, the Cole County Commission had some controversy after the shooting in Orlando when the flag was not lowered to half-staff after a presidential order. Did the county handle the flag issue properly? In hindsight, would you have done anything differently? And when do you believe the flag should be lowered?
So, obviously, we ended up lowering the flag a day later after the shootings in Orlando. We do have a Cole County flag ordinance. We discussed it after that had happened at the next commission meeting. We are still looking into whether or not we need to make changes to that flag ordinance. With recent events and with the mass shootings that we have had in the United States, in France, and then I believe we had a shooting of an officer in Kansas City. All these things come into play. You know, the question is how often do we have the flag at half-staff? In the past few weeks, you know, it's been at half-staff for a long time. So those will be discussions that we will have to have and try to come up with a good solution. You know, as of late, we've lowered the flag and we have followed the presidential orders.
All right, thank you. Janet, similar question. How do you think the issue was handled, and what would you have done differently?
I think the issue was handled horribly bad, in my opinion. When the president, whether you agree with him, like him, or not, when the leader of our United States makes a proclamation to lower the flag, you do it. It is a sad day in our country. I agree. We have shootings on a daily basis anymore. It's sad. We don't live in the same world that I grew up in. But I will tell you, one of the things that we have left in our country is our flag. It is the thread that binds us together as a people and a nation, and it deserves all the respect that we can give it. And when the president, our leader, says lower it, lower it. And if we get a shooting every day and we lose a police officer or 50 people in a club having fun, we need to honor that.
Okay, thank you. Janet, what's the most pressing issue you believe the county faces, and how would you deal with it?
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you to be, both of you to be specific. I mean, what do you think the most pressing issue the county faces is?
The most pressing issue. I would think communication between the tax-paying citizens of Cole County and the Office of the Commissioners. Communication skills, people knowing what's going on with their money, knowing how it's being spent. That's what I believe probably be the biggest issue.
And how would you deal with it?
Open government. If I am elected to this office, every citizen in the county of Cole is going to have my email, my cell phone, my home phone. Anyway, they can drop by my house. I am going to be accessible to the citizens that I serve.
Okay, thank you. Chris, what's the most pressing issue the county faces, and how would you deal with it?
So there's probably not one major issues, but I would say that our health and our stormwater are probably some of the biggest issues that we face countywide, with the biggest regulations coming from EPA and various DNR. Stormwater will probably be the biggest issue that we face in the county going forward over the next 15, 20 years. We have numerous problems throughout the county that we need to address. And so with our sales tax, we can address some of those stormwater issues and some of those health concerns. So that would be the biggest issue that I think the county faces, and probably the biggest expense that we will see in the next 15 years.
And how would you deal with it?
We would deal with it through our half-cent sales tax and through improvements that we can do through our half-cent sales tax. Most of those have to do with road subdivisions, various things that are throughout the county. So, whether that be detention ponds, various things, but those would all be done through that half-cent sales tax that passed.
Okay, thank you. Next question goes to Chris. County department heads have requested more personnel and higher salaries for their employees. Is that needed? And if so, the bigger question is, where are you going to get the money? What specifically would you cut in the budget, or what would you do to increase revenues?
So are you talking department heads, or are you talking elected officials, or both?
Both.
Okay. So every year within our budget, we get asked for new positions. People want to fill new positions, may need multiple new positions. We've held the line the last 4 years. Recently, we added 3 new jailers and 1 detective with the sheriff's department. Obviously, those new positions will be coming through the law enforcement sales tax, and that fund will be able to handle that. So the question has been over the past 4 years is, can we afford to add new positions? The county commission has taken a stance that we need to try to do with what we have. We need to take care of the people that we have. And so we have not added new positions, and therefore we've been able to give better benefits and been able to give raises. We believe that it's important to take care of the people that we have. And so, if those services are essential, we'll take a look at that on an individual basis. But thus far, we haven't seen any real need to fill new positions.
Okay, thank you. Janet?
I think that if you keep and retain good employees, there should not be the need to add on. When you have to train new, then there's a cost factor there. So I think that retaining and keeping your current employees is the way to go. In the emergency management services and our public safety like the sheriff, with the turn of events in the world and the changes coming down the pike, our money needs to be spent on our law enforcement and our emergency management services. The last thing anybody wants in here is to have an untrained individual come to their home in an ambulance when their loved one is being ill or needing medical attention.
Okay. Next question. Janet, why are you challenging someone from your own party for this position? How would you assess the job Chris has done, and what would you do better?
I want this position because I have spent years of service to my community. I currently serve as the president of the Apache Flat St. Martin's Business Association. I am the president of the Crime Stoppers. I'm two-time past president of the West Side Business Association. I certainly serve on the board of the Council for Drug-Free Youth. It is my thing. I love my community, and I love serving. I love giving back. I want to do that. I thought, I'm not getting any younger. I don't mind telling you, I'm going to be 62 next year. And if I was ever going to do it, now is the time. Because I want to be your next Western District Commissioner. I want to do your bidding. I want to work for you.
How would you assess the job that Chris has done, and what would you do better?
As I have traveled throughout the county, knocking on doors and visiting businesses, the first question out of 3/4 of the mouths is, what's our guy's name? What's our guy's name? To me, that's a tragedy that people that you serve don't even know your name. That's why that is one of the main reasons. I want you to know my name. I want you to know how to get a hold of me. I want to be there. I might not always have the answer that you want, but I am going to do my best to work for you, and we're going to come to a happy medium.
Chris, how would you assess the job you've done?
I would assess the job that I've done as I would say excellent. I don't mean to be boastful or to brag, but I think I've done an excellent job. We've done many things while I've been on the commission to save taxpayer dollars. So by doing some of those things, we were able to give raises by taking care of our health insurance and doing partially self-funded. We saved dollars and mitigated double-digit health insurance increases. We've worked with the courts and implemented programs that have taken people and gotten them out of our jail and get them back to work and productive in our community. So there's been many programs. We've taken an initiative to try to upgrade our facilities a little bit quicker. We've updated our EMS fleet. When I first came on, we had many expenses for repairs with our EMS ambulance fleet, and we decided to upgrade that fleet quicker, and so we mitigated some costs for that maintenance, and we also provided more reliable transportation. We continue to look at many things and try to improve in many areas, and so there's lots of work left to be done. But I think we've done a great job, and I believe I've done a great job in the past 4 years.
Okay, thank you. The next question will go to Chris first. There's been a lot of discussion about the county's space needs, especially regarding the Carnegie Building and the old jail. Does the county have the space that it needs for all of its offices, employees, storage, and programs? And if not, how should that issue be addressed? If it does have the space it needs, should some assets be sold or reorganized?
So that's a great question, and that's a question that we were just discussing today, and what is the direction that we go forward. Currently, we have plenty of space. We may be a little bit tight in some of our buildings and might need some additional space there, but for the most part, we're able to function and do the job within the space that we have. The $1,000 question is what do you do? We're landlocked where we are. We have the courthouse, we have the annex, we have the Carnegie building, we have the jail across the street. We have 4 buildings within one city block, basically. We have the health department. They could use a little more space. But currently, we do have enough space. I wish I had a magic crystal ball and I could tell you what we would do. There's been talk about doing something there where the old jail was. I don't know what the answer is. We can't seem to come to an agreement, all 3 commissioners, on where we move forward. Do we move off-site? Do we move out of downtown? I don't know. Obviously, in the future, we will need more space. We will have more people. We will need to grow some. Hopefully, we can limit that growth. But I don't know what the answer is. Aging buildings like the Carnegie building cost a lot of money. All those buildings need approximately $400,000 worth of repairs. We're just currently spending $860,000 on windows for the courthouse. These are big numbers. We have HVAC that needs to be done in the courthouse. We have HVAC that needs to be done in the annex. All those are $500,000 plus. So lots of needs. And the question becomes do we take care of the buildings that we have, or do we try to move somewhere else and build a new facility or go to a new facility? Thank you.
Okay. As we have a follow-up question, I realize you were saying as a commission you guys are torn, but as Western District Commissioner, what's your feeling on it regarding your last point there? Do you invest in the Carnegie building, the old jail, those other sources, or is there a better solution?
So with us being landlocked there, we have several issues, and so some of that is parking, some of that is just having the space. I would like to see us go to a system where we have non-court related facilities in possibly one building. I think it makes for a better form of government. We can have the assessor and the collector next to each other so that people can go to the assessor and then go to the collector, and maybe they can even work side by side so that people can take care of some of those issues that they have with both offices. I think it would be more streamlined. We could eliminate some of our copiers, some of those things. So ideally, I'd like to see us move off-site and maybe leave the annex for the courts, maybe get rid of the Carnegie building. I don't know, where all that will go, and obviously I'm only one person, so, I've thrown that idea out there. It just makes more sense for all the non-court related offices to be together, and then the prosecutor, the public defender, and the court systems could have the annex and the courthouse.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, would you like for me to repeat the question? Thank you. There's been a lot of discussion about the county's space needs, especially regarding the Carnegie building and the old jail. Does the county have the space that it needs for all of its offices, employees, storage, and programs? If not, how should that issue be addressed? If it does have the space it needs, should some assets be sold or reorganized?
I would hate to see our county seat move from where it is. I would be a proponent of keeping our old buildings. I know there's been a lot of talk about the old jail and the historical aspect part of it. Have pondered over that many times. But I think ultimately we have to do what's best for the county and the citizens at a price that is not going to break the bank. I think we have some things we can do. The library has looked multiple times at maybe moving away from that city block. We could use that if the growth were needed. I like the idea of combining maybe the collector and the assessor. That would probably be a good move. But right now, I think with the money that we're putting into the annex windows and the high vac and the courthouse windows, we've kind of put ourselves into a situation where we're going to need to stay there.
Well, and the follow-up question to you, I mean, Chris mentions upwards of $500,000 to retrofit, I guess, the Carnegie Building, the old jail, for the use, if you're going to maintain county government squarely in that footprint. Do you think are you willing to make that sort of investment in the county? And where are we coming up with the money for that?
I think that is something we'd have to take to the voters, to the taxpayers, and then we would have to do their bidding.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, Janet's up next for the next question. The Cole County Commission generally provides for unincorporated areas of the county, but what obligations does the county have to city residents? And by that, I mean Jefferson City residents.
The county of Cole has approximately 74,000 people, for which 3/4 of those reside inside the city limits of Jefferson City. So we have an obligation to partner and work with the city of Jefferson as the county, because the biggest bulk of our tax-paying Cole Countyans reside inside the city limits of Jefferson City.
Chris, would you like for me to reread the question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So currently, in our half-cent sales tax, we provide approximately $5 million to do cooperative projects with the city of Jefferson. We also have a cooperative projects with other townships. But directly with the city of Jefferson, they would not be able to do a lot of the projects that are done in our community without those cooperative dollars. Sometimes we cooperative with MoDOT, the city, so it's multi-cooperative. But these projects, are safety improvements, just like the Jefferson and Stadium project will be, that's just getting underway. Making sure that all our kids and people can travel safely through these projects. And so a lot of these are big projects that are multi-million dollars, and so it takes cooperative dollars to get those projects done. And that's why we have continued to fund these cooperative projects with the city of Jefferson and try to spend a fair amount of our tax dollars, or your tax dollars, in the city. So that half-cent sales tax is generated but mostly in Jefferson City, and so one half of 1 cent is spent, and we allocate a certain amount of those dollars to do these cooperative projects.
Okay. Let me follow up with both of you a question. Do you believe that the level of spending, Cole County Commission spending within the city limits of Jefferson City, is sufficient or insufficient? Should more money be spent, more county money be spent on projects within Jefferson City or not? Are you satisfied with the current level? Well, again, we'll start with Janet and then Chris.
I believe the expenditures being spent within the city limits of Jefferson City is sufficient at this time. Sometimes I think maybe some of our little outlying municipalities are needing more. Thus is why I mentioned a while ago that maybe we need to have a bi-monthly meeting with the leadership of those little towns around us and look at what they need, what their needs are, where they want to be in 5 years. It's hard for small townships to make it on their own. Road projects, stormwater, multiple things. And I think that's where, being the county commission, is where we need to help those folks. Because the city does have a half-cent sales tax. They have the ability to help within the city limits. And if anything, I would increase our expenditure outside of the city limits of Jefferson.
Okay. Chris?
So I would agree with Janet. I think that we spend roughly $5 million, and we spent $5 million in the previous sales tax cycle, and we're going to spend $5 million going forward with cooperative projects. Along with that $5 million, certain townships, including the city of Jefferson, get a certain percentage of our road and bridge fund. So a certain percentage goes to these municipalities. I believe that's adequate. Obviously, if there's other major projects that need to be done, we're always open to looking and doing those projects with the city. But that requires them to come to us and ask to maybe do a little more than that $5 million. But at current levels, I believe that it's adequate.
Okay, thank you. Chris, the commission has had issues in the past with other elected officials at the county level. What is the commission's authority when it comes to other county elected officials?
So ultimately, we'd all like to get along, but sometimes there are disagreements. Basically, during our budget process, we establish a budget for every elected official. And within that budget, there's certain line items that they have that they can spend within. So as long as they spend within those guidelines, they can do as they please. If they have to transfer money out of contingency, then that comes back to us and we have to approve it or deny it. Obviously, as long as they have an approved budget, they have the authority to spend within that budget, and we can't really do anything about that. Obviously, if there's an expense that we question, we may ask them about it. We may try to deny the payment, but that's just part of us trying to be good stewards to the taxpayers. Is we're overseeing all these expenses by every department, not just our departments. We see the expenses for every department. So,
Okay, thank you. Janet?
I believe that with the amount of elected officials working over at the courthouse, that respect is probably the number one need. You don't always agree, but if there's an argument or a disagreement, you take it behind the doors and you talk about it and you get it done. There should never be any public displays of force or ugliness out in the hallways of the courthouse or the annex. Was there another part to that?
No, I'm just, at what point, what would be the point of a discussion behind closed doors with a county elected official?
Between elected officials? If there was a disagreement on something, a budget item or a reason for withholding money or just a disagreement of any kind, it should be worked out quietly and not in the hallways of the courthouse, which it has been in the past, I've been told.
Okay. As a journalist, I would say I would hope that the discussions would be held in the open meeting discussion so that taxpayers could be
Right.
privy
And
to that discussion.
that's a whole different topic.
Okay, let's see, next question. Because of unnoticed changes in state law in 2007, it was recently found the county likely owes more than $300,000 in back pay to different elected officials. How do you propose the county deal with this issue, and how would you prevent a similar situation from happening again? And this one, we'll start with Janet.
When I read this, my first question was, how does this happen? How do 7 years go by? A legislative ruling, and then 2 years later, a definitive description of how that monies, that raise should have been done, and now we're into 2016. This happened 2007. The definitive description was in 2009. Now we're in 2016, and 300,000 is probably a small number by the time it's all going to be over. My question is, how does this happen? If they cannot keep up with their own raises, then how are they taking care of the money of the taxpayers of the County of Cole?
So how would you prevent a similar situation from happening again?
I would say that you need to read the information that is handed down to you from the Commission of Commission of Counties, wherever that comes from. That was a total overlook. How do you overlook paying yourself? And now it's going to cost hundreds of thousands, upwards of over probably $500,000 by the time it's over.
And the other element of that question was, how will you be dealing with this issue if you're elected Western District Commissioner?
You have to follow the law. We are going to have to find the money. We're going to have to pay the wages that are owed to the people for the last 7, 8 years. I mean, there's no question it has to be done. It's sad. It's a shame, but I don't think there's any way to get around it.
Chris?
Question, Gary?
Sure. Because of unnoticed changes in state law in 2007, it was recently found the county likely owes more than $300,000 in back pay to different elected officials. How do you propose the county deal with this issue, and how would you prevent a similar situation from happening again?
So, in 2007, there was a minor word change in the statute that basically made all first-class counties go by assessed valuation and then pay their elected officials accordingly to a schedule. We have had numerous attorneys, the prosecutor, many people have looked at this and given us an opinion, given the Salary Commission an opinion as to that interpretation. So just here recently, several of the Salary Commission met and wanted to seek another opinion. And so they went out and got another opinion. We had some questions about that, so we sought another opinion. And Mr. Lowell Pearson came in and presented to the Salary Commission his findings and his determination of what that statute in 2007, what was the interpretation of that? What did he think a judge would do if there was a lawsuit that would address that? So basically his findings say that statute of limitations goes back the last 5 years. Obviously, we only owe wages for the past 5 years. It's in upwards of $370,000. I'm not an attorney. We have an attorney on staff. We've had multiple attorneys look at it. Missouri Association of Counties did not send us information regarding that. It slipped through them as well. So, you know, we're one of the few first-class counties that it probably did affect. There's many other first-class counties in St. Louis, Kansas City, and they go by a different statute. So obviously this was an oversight, but there was many people that looked at it. It wasn't a county commission mistake because we had other attorneys look at this and they didn't see the results.
Okay. Now, by way of follow-up, how are you going to deal with this situation as Western District Commissioner?
So obviously, we owe the money, we owe some back wages, and we have to adjust the wages going forward. So we'd like to deal with this in the budget process. So we'll start the budget process in August, and we'll budget for this. So going forward in 2017, we'll budget to pay these back wages, we'll budget to pay the increase in salaries, and so going forward, that's how we'll address it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a reader-submitted question. This from reader Dennis Morrissey, and this will go to Chris. Is it a conflict of interest to vote on funding for the Chamber of Commerce when a commissioner is a chamber member? Why or why not?
So I am a chamber member. I go to some chamber events, but I don't sit on the board of directors. I don't tell them how to spend their money. The commission does give them some direction as to how we want to see economic development done. Mr. Bushman sits on that committee, and so we do give them $150,000 a year to do our economic development. And I believe that we need to have someone doing our economic development, whether that's the chamber or somebody else. But in order for our community to grow, we have to do economic development. Because when we don't, other communities are. They're going to take the employers, they're going to take the jobs, and we're going to be stagnant. We have seen a little bit of growth, but we're still pretty stagnant here in Jefferson City. We need to continue to grow. We need to have places for our children and our grandchildren to be employed, just opportunities for them to stay in our community. So we have to do some type of economic development. I don't believe it's a conflict of interest for me as a business owner to be a chamber member. There's many chamber members all over Jefferson City. Lots of them serve in different capacities on the chamber board of directors. I don't believe that's a conflict of interest for them either.
Okay, thank you. Janet?
I'm not sure how I feel about being a member of the chamber and being on the other end of giving them money. I'd have to give some more thought to that. I do know that one of the areas that I feel like I totally believe in economic development. I think if we're going to survive, we've got to replace some of the industries and the businesses that we're losing. Some of our local ownership building owners, local owners, little small business owners, they're out there. It's tough. And with the new legislation coming down the pike where they have to raise their salaries, it's going to be very hard for them. As far as the chamber and the $150,000, if I am going to give an entity $150,000, I want them to be able to come to me annually and tell me how those dollars were spent. And I don't mean just, well, we did this and we did that. I want a detailed report on how my $150,000 was spent.
Okay, so by way of follow-up, the chamber has been for several years the economic engine for the county, economic development engine. How do you believe the chamber has done? Are you satisfied with what the county is getting out of that chamber agreement? And if not, what would you do differently?
Not being over there yet, I don't know, but I will agree with Chris. We are stagnant. I don't know that if it's totally the chamber's fault. Maybe it's just the times. I think the chamber is probably doing what they can. I think accountability on their part and letting us know what they're doing with the dollars and would help us more to see that they are actually working hard for the economic development of Cole County.
Chris?
So the chamber gives us a quarterly and an annual report. Obviously, it explains where all the dollars go. The city and the county both partner with the chamber to do economic development. They give us the reports. You can interpret the reports however you like. Am I satisfied with what they're doing? I'm never satisfied with what anybody's doing. I want them to do more. I want them to do more with what they're getting. I'd like to see more economic development. I want them to work harder. I want them to do more, and I've asked for that. I've been critical of the chamber at times. That being said, I'm not sure that there's someone else out there that can do economic development for what the city and the county partner with the chamber to do. Obviously, if there is, maybe we need to explore that. But I'm not satisfied with the job that they're doing, but I think they're doing an okay job, and I keep pushing them to do more.
Okay, thank you. Another question from a reader. Robert Haslag asks, the Jefferson City Area Chamber of Commerce often helps fund ballot issues and tax campaigns in the area, including a proposal for county zoning and for a renewal of the half-cent capital improvement sales tax. Is it unethical for the county commission as a government entity to fund an organization that engages in political activities?
So I'm not sure how, so you mentioned two different things there, and so the county half-cent sales tax, I'll address that. Civic Progress is the organization that helped to fund the county's half-cent capital improvement sales tax. That is not a function of the chamber. That is a group of private business owners that donate to Civic Progress, and without their help, we would have had a much more limited campaign. Like I said, Civic Progress, I believe, does most of these things. I think Randy Allen is involved with Civic Progress and tries to coordinate that group, but it is not funded by the chamber. It is funded through Civic Progress.
Okay.
I would think that if I were Randy and I was the head of the local area Chamber of Commerce, that might be an area that I may not want to be the head of. I know he's for Civic Progress, but I think sometimes you need to keep those lines clean. Maybe they'd better look to have a different leader for Civic Progress. I don't know for sure that the chamber has given dollars. I know in their capacity as economic development, I would think they would wholeheartedly support a half-cent sales tax. Zoning, that's a county issue. That's a taxpayer issue. One of my thoughts on zoning is it doesn't have to be a big, bad, scary word. Annexation and zoning, the way that those were approached in the past, turned people off very much. But I personally don't think that zoning is a bad word. I think it protects the homes and the investments of the taxpayers of Cole County if done correctly and on a level that is acceptable to everyone involved. And I think everyone should be brought to the table. Homeowners, business owners, agricultural owners. That is my thoughts.
Okay. So a follow-up question for both of you. One of the elements of this was county zoning. County zoning failed badly at the polls. 65% failure at the polls. Do you support county zoning? Would you be interested in re-examining county zoning in the future?
So obviously I was part of the commission when we put forth zoning to the voters, and the voters decided that they did not want zoning. So as far as I'm concerned, zoning is a dead issue. We had town hall meetings. We tried to explain the benefits of zoning to the residents outside the incorporated areas. Obviously, they didn't like the issue. They don't like being told what they can do with their property. I see the benefit of zoning, but at this time, I'm not ready to move forward to push zoning again.
Janet?
That again has to be taken to the vote of the people. after the last time zoning came up, where there was an issue out in western Cole County on Arden Drive. Gentleman opened a not-so-nice shop in his home. Neighbors weren't very happy. In my own neighborhood, we have seen a business that has opened up in a home on a corner of two very busy streets. This business has quite a bit of equipment. Anytime you turn on the street, you're either running into there's no way for two cars to pass. So I think on issues like that if done correctly and at the will of the people, that zoning can be a good thing. It doesn't have to be a scary word. So I would support whatever the citizens of Cole County wanted, but I think it should be expressed to them, and when they see it as to the value of protecting their property, I think it could be a good thing.
So to follow up, Chris says zoning is a dead issue based on the voters' vote. Are you saying that is an issue that you would be willing to bring back to the voters to ask them again in a different format, or what exactly are you saying?
I'm saying I'm here to serve at the will of the people, and if I had enough interest from the people in western Cole County that wanted to revisit the zoning, I would take it to the table.
Okay. All right. That is all the questions that I have. So now we're going to go to the closing statements time, and we'll begin the closing statements with Janet. She has 1 minute, and then we'll go to Chris.
I feel like the primary mission of the county commission is protecting the lives, property values of the citizens, providing safe infrastructure for roads, like roads and bridges, mental health, the health department is really busting at the seams. I would like to try to help them get into a new home. We talked about expanding space for the county. If we could get the county health department moved into a new location, we'd have their current building for storage or any overflow that we needed. I want to be an accessible, approachable, I want to serve with fairness and integrity. I want to make common sense decisions based on the input that I receive from the citizens of Cole County, and I would like your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
As a small business owner, I deal with many issues that we deal at the county every day, whether that's employees, health insurance, workers' comp, payroll, deductions, many things. But over the past 4 years, I ran on 3 things: open government, no new taxes, and better government through better cooperation of Cole County communities. I achieved all those. We implemented streaming in our commission chambers so that you could have more access to us. We had some evening meetings. We had limited participation. No new taxes. We reduced property taxes the last 4 years. Cooperation with communities. In our new half-cent sales tax, we went from $700,000 to $1.5 million. There's $800,000 for more cooperation in those communities. These things don't get done easily, but I have achieved those. The commission has achieved those, and I ask for your vote on August 2nd.
All right. Again, we thank you both for coming and answering the questions that we put forward to you. And at this point, we're going to take a 5-minute intermission, and then we'll resume our program with the assessor's race at that time. So again, Chris and Janet, thank you very much.